Well, some slower reveals and some subdued scares really do prove that American Horror Story really is showing that less is more. Hey guys, Cameron for American Horror Story Roanoke Episode 2, and I was definitely really looking forward to this second episode, mainly because of the fact that Episode 1 greatly impressed me just by how different it was from other American Horror Story seasons. I know a lot of people were thrown off by it. I was thrown off by it in a good way. I like the subdued approach, I like the different type of tone they were doing, and I like what the show ultimately is trying to do. And I have to say that since then, there's been a lot more information that has come about the season. First of all, it's not called My Roanoke Nightmare. It's actually called Roanoke. My Roanoke Nightmare, of course, is the fictional TV show within a show. But it is called American Horror Story Roanoke, and I really do like that title overall. And it's also been announced that the show is doing 10 episodes this season. And I really think it's working for their benefit because I thought, not only was this episode great, I thought this was better than the premiere. I really love this episode overall. I thought we really had some great reveals here. It was a very exposition-heavy episode, but it was also, honestly, genuinely scary. I was scared several times throughout this episode. I thought we got some great stuff with Lee in this episode, some great acting overall. But let's just get into this episode because I'm really enjoying this season overall. I really love what they've been doing, and let's just get right into it. So we start off right where the last episode left off, you know, where Shelby is involved in, she's in the dark woods, and I will admit that, yes, the characters are making the best decisions, but again, you really have to put yourself in their shoes. They are in a southern country where you have this interracial couple, and they basically feel that, you know, they are going to be targeted for that. So it kind of makes sense why they're making the decisions that they are, but let's get into this episode. By the way, guys, I'm not going to talk about the documentary aspect because there's not really much to talk about with it. I mean, it's basically them talking about their feelings and how they feel, so I'm not really going to get into that. I'll talk more about what we actually saw in this episode, but either way, we start off, we see Shelby's running through the dark woods. She stumbles across some sort of horrific ritual played by Kathy Bates, who, right off the bat, really is creeping me out. I really love the role she's playing here. We don't really know what she's doing, but she is a tribe leader of sorts, definitely, and she scalps this man, has her minions sacrifice him over a fire with a pig's head pulled over his head, and obviously this scares the living shit out of Shelby. She runs out of the woods screaming straight into her husband, Matt's sister's car, which, that was a crazy scene when she got right in front of that car. I'm like, holy shit, I mean, I really didn't know what was going to happen there, but Lee accidentally ends up running over Shelby, and luckily Lee does rush Shelby to the hospital in time. We find out she's going to be okay. The doctors think that she's on some sort of drugs because she's railing about the human sacrifice of their shock, and obviously they're not really believing what she's saying because of the fact that it just sounds outlandish and silly. And Shelby, we know, is completely clean. Matt promises Shelby that as soon as she's released from the hospital, they will move to a new house, because obviously this house is not doing it for them. It's not working out in the way they want it to, and definitely this house, there's just something not right about it. And Shelby shocks him by announcing that she actually wants to stay. She basically wants to, I think, conquer whatever's in the house, and Shelby thinks that she recognized one of the mountain men, the sacrifice, and that it was all an elaborate hoax to scare her and Matt away, and that really it was just the polk guys, you know, who were those hillbillies who want them gone, and Shelby isn't giving up her house that easily. You know, she thinks they want her gone, and again, it's understandable. I mean, when you live in that side of that southern side, it's not the nicest side of town. Really, it's not. So I can understand why Shelby is feeling like they're targeting them and that they want them gone. I totally understand that. And just like last week, we still don't have an opening credits sequence, which is very interesting, and I really do feel there's a specific reason why they're not doing that. Do I think we're not going to have an opening credits sequence all season? No, I think right now they just want to keep things very secretive, and if they reveal anything with an opening credits sequence, it will spoil the big twist of the show. Like I said, Something's going to happen in episode 6, and I think that we are definitely going to see that a little bit later, but just like last week, that first scene gives us a lot of uncertainty, gives us some definitely very terrifying scares, and really, I think, sets up the episode very well and definitely shows the direction that the season is headed in. However, most of this episode is actually focused on Lee, and I really did love seeing that, and I have to say, I'm really loving Lee's character overall, and I think Angela Bassett's doing a really great job portraying this character, because, like I said, this isn't like the other characters she's played, you know, this isn't some sassy black woman stereotype. No, this is a real woman who was a cop and is trying to reconnect with her family and has clearly some sort of drug problem and isn't very well respected because of it, but I really like what they do with her character in this episode. I thought it was very well done. Basically, we see it's Lee's weekend with her daughter Flora. She has her ex drop their daughter off because she desperately wants to see her. It's not long before strange things start happening, though. Lee catches Flora in one of the bedrooms. She's talking to this imaginary friend named Priscilla. Now, Lee doesn't really think much of it, mainly because of the fact that most children who have divorced parents make up imaginary friends so they can feel closer, and, she didn't really think much of it because of that. That is something I think the documentary aspect's doing pretty well, so we really are getting into the heads, and we can see, really what they're feeling. So Lee's horrified when Flora says that her imaginary friend needs her help getting rid of all the blood, and that in itself is really creepy, and Lee then finds a small child's bonnet in the house, and Lee says it's just like her friend Priscilla's. So we don't really know what's going on there or who Priscilla is, but clearly whoever Flora's communicating with is definitely someone she shouldn't be communicating with. So that night, everyone heads to bed, and it's only a matter of time before Shelby can hear howling outside, and she grabs a baseball bat, heads outside. Matt chases after her with a flashlight. Shelby's determined to prove that she isn't afraid of the mountain men that she thinks are harassing them, because again, she thinks that these are just hillbillies, and she doesn't really want to make it seem like she's scared of them. So Matt finds Shelby standing in front of some sort of burning cross with a pig head on it, and again, I don't know what's up with all the pig heads, but there's clearly some sort of, really weird ritual that's going on with that, but really interesting the way that was done. And this scene generally was very creepy. Matt and Shelby then call the police frantically, obviously because they want an explanation of what's going on. They want to do whatever they can to get the Polk men out of there, and they finally agree to put a squad car in their driveway to keep an eye on them, and the police, for whatever reason, don't want to do anything. They think it's really dumb, they think, and I understand, obviously, what they're saying just doesn't sound like something you'd hear, but again, the police are kind of dumb for that. So Shelby and Matt then head back to bed. They finally feel safe, but it's not long before Matt is woken up again by the sound of a phone ringing, and he heads downstairs and stumbles across two creepy women in nurses' uniforms. A very creepy scene, may I add. We have no idea what's going on here, but they appear to have some sort of nurses' station set up in his living room. They're caring for this elderly woman. The nurses shoot the woman in the head, and they kill her because she's talking back to them, which was very weird to see, and, Matt screams, runs back upstairs, and here's where I really started to love the episode, because like I said, I didn't want Matt to be that character that's in denial the whole time. I didn't want him to be like, oh, there's nothing going on, you know what you're talking about. No, Matt is seeing things too. It's not just Shelby they're targeting, they are in fact targeting Matt, and I thought that was very well done here. He thinks that he must be dreaming, though. He doesn't think this is possible. He thinks that there's something just going on, that's late at night, alright, that's fine, but obviously this isn't normal what's going on. Very creepy scene, but what I really think they're doing a very good job with in terms of horror is that it's very subdued. It's not stuff to the point where it's over the top. It's not all in your face. In fact, it's very mysterious as to what's going on. And I think, honestly, that's really what's adding to making this season so scary. I've heard people say this is the scariest season, and it's mainly because it's so subdued, and you don't really know what's going on, and they're not going all over the top, and so in your face, and just, shock value. They're not doing that this season. They're clearly focused on creating an actual story, and I really did like seeing that. So the next day, Mason shows up to pick up Flora. Lee and Mason find her hiding in the closet, talking to her imaginary friend Priscilla. Flora says that Priscilla's going to kill them all. Mason freaks out, takes her to the car, tells Lee that she's never coming back there, feels that definitely something is off with Lee. And that's understandable, again, because we know how Lee treated her family and what she did, and he thinks that she's an infant mother. And Lee is obviously very devastated, and she talks about this is the moment she fell off the wagon. After Dar leaves, she ends up getting very wasted, and Shelby and Matt then find Lee in the kitchen, clearly drunk, and Matt puts his sister to bed. He heads back downstairs, and Matt talked about in the documentary how, Lee isn't usually someone that he needs to take care of, and Lee's usually someone who they can always count on, but he puts his sister to bed, he heads back downstairs, and he finds Shelby staring out the window at what appears to be this old woman standing in the yard. I'm assuming Kathy Bates' character, but they head outside and investigate, but the woman seems to have just vanished, and we don't know where she went, but she's gone. They do find a trap door that the woman appears to be standing on, and Matt removes the lid. There's a ladder that leads down underground, and he heads back downstairs, and he finds Shelby, basically He basically, there's some sort of cellar. We don't know what exactly it is, but meanwhile inside, Lee stumbles out of her room, appears to be being chased by some sort of demon with a pig's head, so we don't really know what's going on there. But again, clearly someone is haunting them. We don't really know what's happening with that, but again, this subdued horror is really what's making this season that much scary, and I think they did a very good job with that here. So, finally, even though we're getting all this subdued horror, we actually do get, I think, a little bit more explanation as to what's actually going on this season. Shelby and Matt then head down the cellar to their yard. It looked like someone was living down there at one point. They find this camcorder and a TV, and they head back to the house and watch the tape, and they see this really crazy, bearded man who they think is just very absent-minded, and he frantically, which is played by Dennis O'Hare, and I gotta say, I think Dennis O'Hare has again found another character. Is he gonna topple Liz Taylor? No, but I already really do love the character he played in this episode. And what I loved about the scene is that there is a lot of exposition, but Dennis O'Hare did a really great job in making this scene stand out on its own. You can see the genuine fear in him, and you can see that he's not playing around. He frankly explains the house is haunted. His name is Elias Cunningham, and he was writing a book about two sisters that opened an assisted living center in the hall, and according to Elias, the two nurses were Miranda and Bridget. And Miranda and Bridget, if you guys don't know, that is a direct reference to American Horror Story Season 1. There was actually an episode where we had these two nurses alone. I can't remember what episode, but I believe it was like the second or first episode where we had a flashback and we saw these two nurses, and yes, those are the two nurses he's talking about in this episode. But it shows that they definitely are going to play a more substantial role this season, and I think it's really cool the way that Ryan Murphy is starting to connect some of the smaller elements of his seasons and putting them into later seasons. I think he's doing a very good job with that. Basically, they were killing their elderly patients, but they only kill patients whose names spelled out the word murder, believe it or not, which is really creepy. We get this really creepy montage of them killing all these elderly patients and basically saying, why they're doing it and what each letter stands for. Very creepy stuff overall. Matt and Shelby are obviously horrified when they realize that the nurses that Matt's seen were actually the ones Elias is describing in the video. They turn back to the TV. Elias is back inside the haunted house, their haunted house, and it looks like a girl appears on Elias's camcorder screen, and then the video just goes dead. So we don't know what's going on there. We don't know if Elias is dead or if he's still out there. I'm willing to bet that he's still out there. I don't know in what capacity, but I feel like Elias is still out there. He's not dead yet, but Matt and Shelby then call the bank. They want to back out of the sale ASAP, and obviously because they're terrified of what's going on. And we also find out what's very interesting about the word murder is that apparently they tried to hide it from everyone. They tried to, with the curtains, they tried to cover up the word, but no matter what you did, it would not get rid of the word. And Matt and Shelby see that. They go to the curtains, and when they remove the curtains, it says, actually, Murdy. The R is not there yet, and we don't know who the R is going to be, but clearly Murdy. We don't know, who the final victim is, but definitely, like I said, the doctors are not done with their final victim, and we don't know who said final victim is going to be. We'll have to see what happens with that. So Matt and Shelby then call the bank. They obviously want to back out of the sale of the house because they're creeped out as fuck, and they learn that they bought the house as is, and they can't get out of the sale, unfortunately, so they're completely screwed. And I thought they gave a good reason why they're not leaving the house. It's not just because they don't want to leave, it's because they can't leave. They bought it for a certain reason, and after bank manager leaves, Lee pulls out in front of the house. She has her daughter's Flora with her, and basically we realize that she actually just kidnapped her own daughter, and Matt follows Lee inside, obviously not really approving of what she did. He tries to talk to her about taking Flora. She whines that Mason wasn't going to let her see her daughters anymore. It's not long before Mason calls and demands to know if Lee took Flora there, which I gotta say, Angela Bassett, really good job in that scene. I like seeing her, talking about how she has a right to see her and that she just wants to be a good mother, because really, nobody seems to really trust Lee. Everyone seems to think that she's this really, that not that she's a bad person, but that she's very unstable and that what she did obviously is wrong, and I think she knows that, but she wants to do whatever she can to get close to her daughter. She wants to be able to be a mother for her daughter, and unfortunately Mason isn't letting her, and she's not going to let Mason tell her what to do. But Mason calls, demands to know if Lee took Flora there. He's on his way to get her, literally threatens to call the police right then and there, because again, he really does not think that Lee should be in treating their daughter at all. So Flora slips outside the house while Lee is talking to Matt. And I thought it was cool. The rest of this episode, we don't see any interviews. Really interesting the way that was done. But basically, Shelby tells Flora to go and do her homework, and she actually ends up slipping outside the house, though, while Lee is talking to Matt. Shelby and Matt then begin searching the woods, frantically searching for her. They find Flora's yellow jacket hanging at the top of the tree, hundreds of feet in the air, and she seems to have just disappeared in the air. But that is the way the episode ends. We don't really know what's going on there, but what a way to end the episode. Let's get into the season overall, and really what I think is really going on. So like I said, I enjoyed this episode a little bit more than last week's. Not that I didn't like last week's episode, but I think this episode just had a little bit more depth to it, and there was definitely more explanations as to what was going on. And let's talk about this whole documentary aspect, because Ryan Murphy basically came out and said that this is not going to last forever, that what we think is going on is not actually going on. And I'm willing to bet that I already know what's happening here. You guys know, so I know Ryan Murphy said that one of the big things about this season and the series in general is that he's trying to connect all the scenes together. There are 2 scenes that haven't been connected yet. You know, Coven's been connected, Asylum's been connected, Murder House, but Freak Show have yet to be connected. The way I think they're going to do it this season is, we remember at the end of Hotel that Billie Dean Howard, made all of these documentary series in the hotel, and that one of her episodes started, in the Cortez and everything. So I'm actually thinking that what we're seeing are actually ghosts, that Matt and Shelby are actually dead, and what we're seeing is in fact Billie Dean Howard shooting them, talking about their experience, and basically through, because, she's a medium and everything, it's actually a medium ghost series. That's what I think is really going on. I think it would just make more sense if that's what's happening, because, again, when you have actors, and everyone has said this, when you have someone like Lily Rabe and Andre Holland, 2 very talented actors who we know just have such an incredible range and can give so much depth to a performance, you don't just use them as talking heads. There's clearly going to be more going on with them. Not yet, but there definitely is going to be more going on there. We'll have to see what happens with that. Either way, I think it's really interesting what we got into in this episode. The big question is Elias. Is Elias still out there? How long has he been out there? And if he is out there, who is the final victim? Obviously, Murdy, there needs to be an R. Who is going to be that R? We don't really know what's going on there. But I really did like what we got of Elias's character. I'm looking forward to seeing more what happened with that. Where did Flora go? I don't think she just disappeared in midair. I think that something definitely more is going to happen there. We see in the promo that there's something that Lee doesn't want to share on camera, so I'm assuming it has to do with her and Flora. I don't know what it is exactly, but that's very interesting, so we'll have to see what happens with that. But in general, what is really going on with the human sacrifice? Obviously, it's definitely not the Polk boys. We definitely know that now. We know, obviously, it is some sort of cult. Who is Kathy Bates' character? What's her main purpose in the show? We don't really know. We did get a brief appearance of Lady Gaga in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the one assistant to Kathy Bates, that is, in fact, Lady Gaga's character. And they did a very good job with disguising her, but that is Lady Gaga. And I think, again, it's really ballsy. No Evan Peters, no Wes Bentley, no Cheyenne Jackson. Well, they're in the show, but again, they're not really showing them right now. And no Finn Whitrock. I mean, just really ballsy stuff overall, and just really genuinely scary. I was genuinely scared throughout this episode, very startling, and just very, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think the uncertainty is really good. Usually in American Horror Story, we can tell exactly where it's going to go. It ends up getting very predictable, and sometimes it's not even scary, but this season, I think by stripping down the layers and not telling us what's going on, and also having this completely different structure, it's really making the season a lot more unpredictable and a lot more scary, and there's a lot more things they can do within the season, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I know a lot of people are saying they're unreliable narrators. Well, that's the point. They're not supposed to be unreliable. I mean, one of the questions is we don't even know if the story they're telling is actually their story. I've heard people say that the Matt and Shelby that we're seeing could be completely different characters. They could be the killers of Matt and Shelby for all we know. I mean, we don't really know what's actually going on here, and I like that. I like that we don't know what's going on. Ryan Murphy said we're probably going to find out in episode 6, but right now, I'm really loving where the season is going. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. There's not a ton to say right now because, again, we don't really know entirely what's going on, but what we're getting, I'm really loving. I really like Sarah Paul's in this episode. Cuba Gooding Jr. was great, and Angela Bassett, I think Lee could end up being the best character she's played, and if American Horror Story continues down this route, this could be one of their best seasons yet. I really could see this possibly even end up being their best season because it's creepy, it's scary, and it's telling a very interesting story that is full of cliches, but definitely is finding a way to make it original, and I think overall the story they're telling is very interesting. I can't wait to see where we're going from here. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall, and we'll see you guys in my next show, which will be for the series premiere of the new ABC series Designated Survivor, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.